We are starting the stream. It says we are up. We confirm over here just to make
Oh,
sure that we're
I'm
live.
I'm here.
You
I see
see
the live.
yourself. Yeah. All
I see
right.
the live, and it's kind of weird. I don't like it, but that's
Here we
okay.
go.
Make sure it's
I gotta.
muted so there's no,
Oh
you know.
yeah, you don't want any of that echoey feedback and
Oh yeah,
whatnot.
no, we're
So,
chilling.
as you guys can see, those of you who tuned into the pregame show, we promised Luke, and here he is.
Our color
Hello, guys.
commentator.
Really?
Maybe for tonight. Luke's our
Okay.
color commentator.
It does kind of. It
Oh.
looks like the setup we've got here with us in one box and Luke in the other. It kind of looks like we're like the guys in the booth, and we're like, let's go down to the field to Luke Paglia.
And it just
Well,
goes,
guys, down on the field tonight. It's a chilly one. The air is biting, and
And everyone is
it's
hurt.
cold, and everybody's hurt.
Were you laughing the entire game?
Wow, you went
No, I'm
straight
not
to it.
laughing.
Sorry, Luke. Sorry.
Luke's like, this is the most hilarious game of all time.
No. It honestly was devastating for the Packers. They had
Dude.
so many injuries.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just hard to watch that happen to your team.
I felt bad by like the first couple. You feel like a little bit bad, but it's the other team. But by the end, it was just ridiculous. They had
Because
no
I
wide
mean, at that point, it
receivers.
was garbage time, and they were still getting hurt, and it
Yeah.
was just like, oh,
Yeah,
But-
so that sucked for the Packers. But the Eagles did win 22-10. They are moving on
We
to the
expected that.
divisional round. We did. We did. We
we did.
to
And
catch
we
you
saw
up.
a solid win.
Yeah. To catch you up, Luke. Our predictions before the game were we both said the Eagles would win. I said it would be 31-13. Parker said 31-20. So obviously neither of those were exactly right. But
They were too high scoring, but
yeah.
we did both say that the Eagles were going to win by more than 5.5 points, which is what the
Mhm.
line was.
Yes,
And
and they did.
They cleared that pretty easily, so
Yeah.
we were on that one.
They won by 12, but it felt like they could have won by 28. Like
I mean,
it-
4 turnovers and to only win by 12 is kind of crazy, especially when
Yeah.
you don't have any for yourself.
Yeah. To be +4 in the differential was, yeah, it's a very weird feeling win because obviously any playoff win, you're thrilled. But it felt like the Eagles did not even come close to their full potential.
I mean, I don't think if that team that we saw tonight went up against the Lions, I don't think we win that game.
No.
And so, I mean, I think we are a much better team, and we've played much better this season than tonight's game showed. But the fact that we still came out with a win, I think that there's things that they're going to learn from, and that they're really going to step on the gas now. And I really hope they just drive through the rest of the playoffs.
And the defense did well. Like
So good.
there was so many 3 and outs. Obviously, they had
Yeah.
the 3 interceptions on Jordan Love. Another thing we said was that we do not trust Jordan Love prior to the
Yeah.
game. I was
No.
like, he's throwing at least 1 interception. Well, I didn't know he was going to throw 3 interceptions, but
Yeah.
the defense came to play. Owen predicted that Quinyon Mitchell would get an interception.
I made a late switch. I said
Yes.
Jordan Love's not going to throw any picks. And then I said actually Quignon's going to pick him off.
And Quinyon did pick him off. Quinyon got a pick. Actually, the Eagles had 3 picks, which is pretty crazy. But I think just starting out the beginning of the game, the first play, the kick return coverage, that might have been the play of the game because
It
that
was.
that resulted in 7 quick points right after that on the O-line touchdown, as Luke called it.
Yeah.
And that recovering that ball and starting off the game with 7 points and just flipping possession right like that inside the 30-yard line was huge. It was huge for the Eagles' momentum.
Oh, absolutely.
That is like the best way to start a game.
For sure. 100%. I think, watching the Eagles start the game that way, I think it really set the tone for the game, and I wish they would have carried that momentum through the whole game. Kind of went a little soft there at the end of the first half, into the second half, kind of picked it up again in the fourth quarter. But, if we would have kept that momentum through the second quarter and the third quarter as well, I mean, we win that game by 30 points.
The other thing from the first quarter was one of my predictions for specific things that would happen in the game was that the Eagles would have a failed screenplay in the first quarter, and 5 minutes in, they throw a screen to Saquon. He's pushed out of bounds, no gain. That was the only time Parker and I cheered for a negative Eagles play. We saw it, Saquon ran out in the fight. We were like, here's the screen. There it is. Yeah! As he gets pushed out of bounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that was the other first quarter note from that. And then, yeah, it felt like from that fast start, they could have really carried that into just another blowout. which they've done a lot this year, so we know they're capable of it. But yeah, they just didn't really keep their foot on the gas. What did you think of AJ Brown reading a book on the sideline, Luke?
I mean, I think it was. I was like, that's weird. And then I saw what the book was called. I was like, I think it's actually really great.
Because it was about like excellence and like
it was inner excellence. Hey, AJ didn't have a great game, and that's not really on him. He just didn't really get targeted today at all. But he's still like, I'm a great player, and that comes from the inside, and that's why he was reading that book. I think it's great. I don't think. I mean, maybe people are going to read into it and be like, oh, AJ doesn't want to be there. He's not locked in. Like, people are going to think what people want to think, and that's just going to happen. But ultimately, I think it's just like a whatever kind of thing. I don't think it took away from anything. I just think it's AJ being AJ.
So you're saying that even though he didn't have outer excellence, his results on the field with 1 catch, 10 yards today, that was it. He's still reading that book. He still has inner excellence, which makes you feel a little bit confident in AJ.
Exactly. Not a little bit. I feel very confident in AJ. Again, today's not AJ's fault per se.
Not at all.
Like he just wasn't targeted. That's not on him. I mean, I guess maybe you could say he could have gotten open more, but like AJ, it's just like AJ will have those games. He'll have a big game, and he'll have a game where we don't throw the ball a lot. I mean, I feel like we didn't throw the ball a ton tonight. We went to Goddard a lot tonight, Smith a few times, but overall, like, we ran the ball more than anything.
Yeah, and that brings up a good question here. How do we feel about the offense going into next week, knowing that, okay, AJ didn't have a whole lot of catches. I think, Jalen Hurts was 13 for 21 with 131 yards, not a whole lot of yards, and 2 touchdowns, 1 to Dallas Goedert on an absolutely insane play. Dude, and then obviously the one right away in the first quarter. But 130 yards is not a lot of passing yards. Saquon had 119. That was another thing that we both took Saquon's over, which was like 105 yards. He hit that on his big run at the very last play there, right before the game ended. More. Yeah. So how are we feeling going into next week? Like, is this offense, I don't know, did they knock the rust off a little bit? Like, I don't know. What are we thinking?
I'm not worried at all. I think this was a very much knock the rust off kind of game. Yeah, Jalen only threw for 130-some yards, but I think we've seen it time and time again this season. Jalen only throwing for 130 yards isn't a bad thing. It doesn't discount what he can do. It just says that we are not a pass-first offense. We are not an offense that needs to throw for 500 yards every game. Like, we're an offense that is going to run the ball first and run it well and effectively with Saquon, with Jalen on an option play. Like, I just think that, like, ultimately we don't need to throw the ball quite as much. And I think that's okay. I don't think that takes away from what our offense has. I think if the run is working, keep doing it. It protects the ball more.
I would have liked to see a better game from Jalen. He did enough for them to win. It would have been nice to see him make some of those throws that he missed. There were some weird decisions when he was
that one to AJ on the fake sneak would have been a great, like, he just missed that throw. AJ was so open.
The play design on that was nice. I did I mean, 13 for 21 doesn't look the best, but he wasn't throwing interceptions. He didn't have an interception.
He threw it away multiple times. Yeah.
Which those throwaways are sometimes big plays because you're not pushing something. Like Drew Allen.
You're not forcing something. You're not taking a sack. Like, sometimes throwing the ball away is not a bad thing.
He didn't have many negative plays. That's a great point. I think there's two, you can look at it from like a positive or a negative. The positive being they didn't play great and they still won. So what happens when they play to their full potential? And that's great. Like, they can grind out a win even when they're not at their best. But you could also look at it on the flip side where it's like, well, they have to do better than that in the future rounds. They can't keep doing that. So I would still be optimistic. Jay Albertson said that he would like the Eagles to play the Bucks, which Parker has been very much against that.
I've seen the Bucks beat the Eagles. I don't know. Do you want to get into that? Talking about
I think Luke, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this game before we start looking ahead to the divisional round?
I mean, I think you guys pretty much said it. Could Jalen have played a little bit better? Yeah, but I mean, we won the game. Jalen used the pieces around him. The offense had the pieces around him, and I mean, that's what's winning our games. And That's what it's been all season. So
Yeah, no, I think it was a really solid win, and the defense played amazing. Giving up
So-
giving
Oh,
up 10
yeah.
points. Obviously, it could have been
So
13
good.
if they would have made that field goal, but still, giving up 10 points to this Packers team that has a really solid offense, getting 3 interceptions. Hey, remember at the beginning of the year, I had mentioned like, hey, they're going to get to 20 picks. I think after those
This
3,
game helped a
they're
lot.
at 16. I think now. I think so that was a
they
big
could
help.
do it. They could definitely get there.
They could get there. They need to have a bunch of picks, and they need to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But yeah, going on to the divisional round, there's 4 opponents that the Eagles could theoretically play. Okay, and those in seeded order right now would be the Bucks, Rams, Vikings, Commanders.
Yes.
Those are the 4 options in seeded order. Depending on who wins, they'll play one of those 4 teams. Do we want to rank them? I mean,
Sure, I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
all right,
that's fine.
Let's rank them from would be perfectly fine playing and would actually want them to play.
Most want to play.
Yep.
That would be number 1, all the way down to
Yep.
number 4, which would be least likely and don't want to play.
Yeah.
And so I can start this out because I have a pretty clear number 1 on who I would like them to play.
Yes.
And I don't know if it'll be the same as you guys. But I think 1, it would be a fun matchup to watch, and 2, I feel very confident about them winning it. They're in the same conference.
Yep.
They're in the
They're
same.
all in the same conference.
Well, I know, but they're in the same. They're in the same division,
Yeah.
and that's the Washington Commanders.
Mhm.
I feel really good if the Eagles get the Commanders. They've obviously just lost to them, but I think it was a little bit of a fluky game, and I don't
It
trust.
was.
I don't trust a rookie quarterback to go into the link and beat the Eagles. Like, that is not a recipe for success. I would be very excited if the Eagles got to play the Commanders.
Yeah.
Which do they have the option to play the Commanders? Actually, thinking about it.
Nope.
Okay, never mind. That's literally impossible.
I was thinking about that, and I was like,
They
well,
would
if
play
the Commanders win, then they'd go because, yeah.
So the only 3 options are the Vikings, Bucks,
Yeah.
and Rams.
Yeah.
Sorry, because if
So
Good pivot.
yeah.
new number 1, Parker. Give me your new number 1.
All right, new
I think
number
that's
1 would be
pretty
the
easy.
Rams.
Yeah.
New number 1 is the Rams.
I think that's unanimous.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I'd rather play the Rams than anybody else.
Yep.
I don't
Agreed.
I don't want to call the Rams a joke, but like they squeezed into the playoffs. I don't think they're anything special.
Yeah, they're fine. Like, Sean McVay's
And
always
Cook
going
is
to have a
dog,
good game
but outside
plan.
of him,
They don't scare me.
yeah. I agree. And their defense isn't as good as the other 2 teams. Remember how at the beginning of the year I threw out that question, hey, like the Eagles, they're in order to win the Super Bowl, they're gonna have to beat, a good defense, like the Vikings or like the Bucks, and now it's looking likely that 66.6% chance, like 2
Yeah.
out of the 3 teams that they play, is gonna be a good defense, either the Bucks or the
Yeah.
Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's so funny, and this is really it's gonna be a prove-it game for Jalen, I think, next week, because if we stick with our rankings, we have Rams number 1, and then we have Vikings/Bucks. What are your guys' thoughts on 2 and 3 for them?
Well, I think I know you would put the Bucks lower because you don't want to. I would put the Bucks above the Vikings. I would rather play the Bucks than the Vikings because the Vikings defense scares me more. I think that they could give us a lot of problems, and I think Baker Mayfield will do better in the playoffs than Sam Darnold. We've never seen Sam Darnold in the playoffs. So, and the closest thing we've seen to Sam Darnold in the playoffs is against the Lions last week, and that did not go well. So I think that I would rather play the Vikings than the Bucks than the Vikings. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, obviously you saw how earlier this season went against the Bucks, but I would like to say we were still kind of heating up during that time. I would almost have to say I think I'd rather play the Bucks than the Vikings. That's really, really close for me.
Especially with your newfound love of Baker Mayfield.
Okay, I wouldn't say it's not a love. It's a mutual respect.
There you go. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that they both have really good defenses, and I just think that the Vikings have a stronger offense. And so I think that when it comes down to our defense stopping one of those offenses, I feel like we have a better chance of shutting down the Bucks almost completely than we do of shutting down the Vikings completely. But I mean, either way, we're going to the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter who we play.
Yeah, that's the attitude
I
we
love
like.
that mindset, Luke.
Yeah.
I just am very scared of Todd Bowles, not gonna lie. Todd Bowles,
He's
literally,
a great coach.
he's a great coach, and he's got Jalen Hurts' number. They must be best friends, the way that he literally just has his number every time they play.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, they're the only team. The Eagles' 3 losses during the regular season, like just the entire season this year, was what? 1 point, 3 points, and 17 points to the Buccaneers, okay? Or 16 or whatever
Their only large loss.
Yeah, their only large loss. And you've seen it in previous playoffs too. The Bucks have the Eagles number. It worries me because I mean it's a prove it game for Jalen if that ends up happening. We need to see if there's growth there or not. Like that's the testing game. That's like the game that you work the entire season to get to. You can prove yourself in that game, like you're a Super Bowl caliber team. If you can't get past the Bucks or the Vikings and their defense, then it's really like, is there much growth and development for Jalen? I guess we'll find the answer out to that next week. I think the Rams would be their defense is still solid, so it's not like it's a cop out. It's just the weakest of the 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Eagles can beat any of those 3.
I agree.
We're not. We're going to be confident no matter who they play. And I think Jalen would, not to speak for Jalen Hurts, but I think that he would love the opportunity to beat the Bucks finally, because especially if you think about how it went last year, that was just a disaster from the start. This year's team is so much better and in a much better position. So I think that it'd be a very different circumstance than last year. So I think they'd be much better set up for success to beat the Bucks this year, and it would be sweet revenge. Also, if they play the Vikings, Quinyon versus Justin Jefferson would be electric.
That would be electric. I think next week is going to give us some amazing matchups. Just like the divisional round always does. It always does. It delivers. And you get 4 games as opposed to the conference championship when you only get 2. Super Bowl's obviously only 1. So you get like 4 amazing games of football. I know I'm speaking like facts here. You know, it's not like it's flashy stuff, you know? We need Luke to come in with the color commentary, but it's truth.
Yeah, I like Jay Albertson again with the Bucks. You'd rather beat the Bucks instead of you'd rather not buck them. You'd rather face them. So I think that's a great mindset of like, yeah, we think we're the best. We'll take on whoever, and we'd rather beat a team that people don't think that we can beat. I also think that there's a little bit of a comparison here for us to make if we want to feel better about this like slower performance. The Bucks Super Bowl team with Brady, they almost lost to the Taylor Heineke-led Washington football team in the first round of those playoffs, and then they like destroyed everybody else. But their first game, it was like, whoa, Taylor Heineke almost beat Tom Brady. They lost by like 3 points, I think.
True.
So the first game is not indicative of everything, as Tom Brady's Bucks showed us.
Playoff wins are not easy, so it was very encouraging to see.
A win's a win.
I mean, those 3 interceptions were so amazing. And we did have a couple good plays, like Dallas Goedert's stiff arm. It's so good to see him back. Like, he just he creates another element to this offense.
I mean, I said this at the beginning of the season, and I stand by it. If Goddard can stay healthy for an entire season, he finishes as a top tight end.
Which he can't stay healthy for some reason.
Yeah, I know. But hey, he's back for the playoffs. This is when it matters. This is when we're moving on now, and it's going to be so fun just to see who the Eagles are going to be playing in the divisional matchup. I think they're probably going to be favored in every game because it'll be at the Eagles Stadium.
They'd probably be favored in the division.
They probably will be favored. Just to follow it up with our pregame predictions, some more stuff that we had predicted prior to the game and gotten correct. Devontae Smith did not have a 50-plus yard catch, but he did have the most explosive play for the Eagles in the third quarter. He had a very long reception. I think it was probably close to 30 yards, not 50. So we were close on that one, not quite 50 yards, but it was the most explosive offensive play. So we were close on that. And then Jordan Love, +1 interceptions, hit on that, obviously. Saquon with 119 yards hit on that as well.
Yeah, and then we said the screenplay, Quinyon getting a pick. Zach Bond did not force a fumble.
He did not force a fumble.
We didn't have that one. But another linebacker, did force a fumble on the kickoff, so we had a linebacker forcing a fumble, not necessarily on defense, but
And Jalen Reed went out of the game, so we did limit the wide receiver. We had
I
mentioned
guess that's one way.
our 2 keys to the game, Luke. My key to the game was limiting Josh Jacobs, and his was limiting Reed.
Yeah.
And his definitely hit because Reed went out of the game.
They limited him, all right.
Josh Jacobs had like 80 some yards, so I would say that was like 50-50. That's still a solid.
It was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. But
Yeah. And also, if Saquon breaks that last one, this game is not as close. Like if Saquon goes
for sure.
and score, like
I mean that's another 7 points.
Yeah. So it could have mattered even less stopping those guys. The offense could have put up basically 30 points, but
it's such a shame. I really wanted to see Saquon break one.
And I
mean,
know.
he did, but it's such a shame at when it happened because I mean, sliding right there was the smart thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But
if he broke it any other time in the game,
he takes it to the house, and that would have been beautiful.
Imagine the amount of yards that Saquon could have this year if he was a selfish player. Like he literally could have an extra 60 yards on that play alone. And then he has an extra full game against the Giants.
Yep.
Like
where he probably would have just cooked them.
Exactly. So he could have literally an extra.
And he sat in a couple fourth quarters.
Game against the Rams, he didn't play the last like 10 minutes because he said let the young guys eat. Like
so that's like
another
300 yards right there that he could have.
Yeah.
150 from the Giants game, 60 from this game, another 90 from that game.
But he wanted to stay fresh so that he can win a championship. And the Eagles are one game closer to that now.
That's what they got on their mind right now.
Playing the long game. We did not go to the Eagles game, unfortunately. That would have been
so fun.
Crazy.
That would have been electric.
But no, we were not there. That is a bucket list item. We should all go to an Eagles game sometime.
A playoff game would be
so expensive.
Yeah, let me get a full-time job first, and then we can do that.
Yeah, let me save up a lot of money. We would have to get like media passes. I think that would be more likely. Is that if we grow this, thank Jay Albertson subscribing helps us. We're one step closer now to getting media passes to go to an Eagles game because I think that's a more likely way to get in to a playoff game at least than
very sure
buying tickets because playoff game tickets are so expensive. So,
they are.
Thank you. Yeah, but someday we'll hopefully make that happen. So the other Sunday night game has already started, so we're gonna be rooting for the Commanders.
I think
we're
a
little backwards.
Pretty heavy for the Commanders. I just don't want to see them play the Buccaneers. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. But Jaden Daniels, let's go. Rookie quarterbacks always do well, especially they have this year so far in the postseason here. So
yeah,
so a little bit of sarcasm there, but let's go, Jaden Daniels. Buck the trend.
We believe in you, Jaden, unless, of course, you end up playing us in the NFC
Then we will beat
game.
you.
Then we won't. But against anyone else, we believe in you.
How crazy would that be? Eagles, Commanders, NFC Championship game.
Just like everyone expected.
That would be wild. That would be pretty wild, not going to lie.
We would have to bring Luke McClister on for that.
For sure.
Anyone who knows about All Philly All the Time lore, you know about Luke McClister and his appearances. But I completely agree with this. Save your money. It's warmer at home. That's my philosophy.
Is so true. You know what else is
at
home? Free food.
Exactly. Yeah, you save money in multiple different ways.
Exactly.
And free parking too.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
free parking.
A lot more things are. It's a lot more.
And you can actually see every play close up.
Mm-hmm. Better angles. Yeah.
Better pizza.
I've always
Papa John's.
I've always been on the side of home is better. Like, obviously, the experience of going to the game in person is awesome. And like, obviously, do that if you can. But like, I don't need to go to multiple games a year. If I can say like I went to a Phillies game this year, like I'm good. I don't need to be at 20 of them. I can watch them on TV. So it's great living in 2025. Any other thoughts from you guys about anything else that we didn't cover from this game, or just like the playoffs in general?
Yeah, I'd like to touch on the Nakobe Dean injury.
Yes, our medical expert Luke. Yes, good call.
I wouldn't say
reporting live from the field.
Yep.
I wouldn't say I'm a medical expert, but it did not look good. Just the way that he fell on his, or that he was falling, like the guy fell on his knee, and the way he got carted off the field then, and It just didn't look good. Knee is never good, obviously. If it's small, I don't think we'll see him next week no matter what. If it's small, maybe he comes back for the conference championship or the Super Bowl if we go there. But if it's a full tear, he's obviously then out for, no matter what it is, if it's a full tear, he's out for this year, the rest of this year. And if it's bad enough, he's out for next season as well, just because of how late this happened this season. That's a 9-month recovery. Maybe we see him late next season, but that just depends on the severity of it. Obviously, we don't know enough yet.
And Nakobe Dean was playing so well too.
Oh, he was playing so well.
That's a big injury.
You definitely could tell. You could tell that there were some holes up there, up the middle. Then
Josh Jacobs started doing much better immediately.
Yeah, and he was breaking tackles almost right after that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. Prayers go out to him for sure. Hopefully Nakobe's okay. And Zach Bond, now he's just gotta carry. He's just gotta carry the team.
He already does carry, and now he's just gotta do it even more.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a great post-game show. Thank you to Jay Albertson for hanging out with us. Speaking of carrying, carried the comment section tonight, writing from Mississippi. Nice. So we had somebody in the pregame show, Luke. We had somebody from London hop on.
Oh, wow.
Who was chatting with us. That was cool. And now Mississippi. So that's awesome. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. And because the Eagles won, we will be back next week doing another pre and post game show.
Yes,
at least one more week of football.
The season
can't wait.
Season extends. Season goes on.
Yep, that's what it's all about. So yeah, thank you, Luke, for hopping on. Shout out to Luke for doing. He ran over to be ready in time so that we could get this going at 8:15, like we told you guys. So, yeah, we'll see you guys next week, like we ended the pregame show with.
Yep.
Go Birds!
Go Birds! The Birds are coming out across the country. Let's do it again next week. Let's go. Thank you.
Yes, sir.